On January 20, 2025, the United States took a significant step backward in the fight for equality. President Donald Trump, in a move that sent shockwaves through the nation, signed 2 executive orders with far-reaching consequences for the transgender community. These orders, collectively dubbed the Only Two Sexes policy, mark a return to a binary understanding of gender, effectively erasing the identities of countless transgender Americans. This essay delves into the ramifications of this policy, examining its impact on various facets of transgender life, from legal documents to healthcare access and education. The first of these executive orders, aptly titled the Executive Order on Sex, explicitly recognizes only 2 sexes, male and female, basing this distinction solely on reproductive function. This order mandates that all federal agencies replace the more inclusive term gender with sex in their official language and operations. The second order, the Executive Order on DEI, further solidifies this binary approach by dismantling all diversity, equity, and inclusion programs within federal agencies. This move effectively silences the voices and needs of marginalized communities, including transgender individuals, within the federal government. The implications of these orders are as sweeping as they are alarming. By legally recognizing only 2 sexes, the Trump administration has effectively invalidated the identities of transgender individuals, denying their lived experiences and creating a hostile environment within the very fabric of American society. This policy is not merely a difference in terminology. It is a direct assault on the fundamental rights and dignities of transgender Americans. The Only Two Sexes policy is not an isolated incident, but rather the culmination of a series of attacks on LGBTQ+ rights during Trump's presidency. It represents a dangerous precedent, one where the government dictates the very definition of gender, ignoring the scientific consensus on gender identity and the lived experiences of millions. This policy has sown seeds of fear and uncertainty within the transgender community, leaving many questioning their place in a nation that seems determined to erase them. One of the most immediate and tangible impacts of Trump's Only Two Sexes policy is its effect on government-issued documents. Passports, visas, driver's licenses, and other forms of federal identification are now required to reflect an individual's biological sex, as determined at birth, rather than their gender identity. This seemingly bureaucratic change has profound implications for transgender individuals, effectively erasing their chosen identities from official records and forcing them to navigate a world where their legal documents no longer reflect who they are. This policy effectively reverses a 2021 decision that allowed individuals to choose an X gender marker on their passports and other federal IDs. This option, while a significant step towards inclusivity, was short-lived. Transgender individuals who had chosen to utilize this option now face the daunting prospect of having their documents invalidated, potentially restricting their freedom of movement and exposing them to discrimination and harassment. Imagine being forced to present an ID that misgenders you every time you travel, open a bank account, or interact with law enforcement. This enforced misgendering is not just an inconvenience. It is a constant source of stress, anxiety, and dysphoria for transgender individuals. It serves as a constant reminder that their government, the very entity tasked with protecting their rights, does not recognize their existence. The impact extends beyond the borders of the United States. Transgender Americans traveling abroad with documents that no longer reflect their gender identity face an increased risk of harassment, discrimination, and even violence. They may encounter difficulties at border crossings, with airlines, and when accessing essential services in foreign countries. This policy effectively traps transgender individuals within a system that refuses to acknowledge their identities, limiting their opportunities and jeopardizing their safety. Trump's Only Two Sexes policy extends its reach into the sensitive realm of single-sex facilities, including prisons, shelters, and restrooms. The policy dictates that access to these facilities be determined solely by biological sex, effectively barring transgender individuals from using facilities that align with their gender identity. This policy has immediate and dire consequences for transgender individuals, particularly those seeking refuge in shelters or serving time in prisons. For transgender women housed in men's prisons, this policy represents a terrifying reality. Forced to live in environments where they are constantly misgendered and subjected to increased risk of harassment, abuse, and violence, these women are denied their basic human rights. Similarly, transgender men seeking shelter in women's shelters are turned away, forced to choose between homelessness or unsafe environments that do not align with their gender identity. This policy also reignites the debate over bathroom access, a topic that has been fiercely contested in recent years. By forcing transgender individuals to use restrooms that do not correspond with their gender identity, the policy opens the door for harassment, discrimination, and even violence. The simple act of using the restroom becomes a source of anxiety and fear, further marginalizing transgender individuals and denying them the dignity and respect afforded to others. The impact on healthcare within these facilities is equally alarming. The policy halts federal funding for gender-affirming care in prisons, denying transgender individuals access to essential medical care, including hormone therapy and mental health services. This denial of care has severe physical and psychological consequences, exacerbating gender dysphoria and jeopardizing the well-being of transgender individuals already facing unimaginable challenges within the prison system. The Only Two Sexes policy strikes at the very heart of transgender healthcare, jeopardizing access to essential medical services and potentially reversing years of progress in transgender healthcare rights. The policy's most direct impact is the elimination of federal funding for gender transition healthcare, including hormone therapy, surgery, and mental health services. This decision has immediate and devastating consequences for transgender individuals who rely on these treatments for their physical and mental well-being. For many transgender individuals, hormone therapy is not merely a cosmetic choice but a medical necessity. It is essential for alleviating gender dysphoria, a profound sense of unease or distress that arises from a mismatch between one's assigned sex at birth and one's gender identity. Denying access to hormone therapy can have severe physical and psychological consequences, leading to anxiety, depression, and even suicidal ideation. The policy's impact extends beyond the immediate denial of care. By creating a hostile environment for transgender healthcare, the policy discourages healthcare providers from offering gender-affirming care, fearing legal repercussions or loss of funding. This chilling effect has the potential to create a healthcare desert for transgender individuals, forcing them to seek underground and potentially unsafe alternatives or forego essential care altogether. Furthermore, the policy's narrow definition of sex creates significant challenges for transgender individuals seeking insurance coverage for gender-affirming care. Private insurance companies, emboldened by the federal government's stance, may deny coverage for treatments deemed cosmetic or experimental, even if those treatments are medically necessary and supported by the medical community. In the midst of policy debates and political maneuvering, transgender students often find themselves caught in the crossfire. They face unique challenges that can profoundly affect their educational experience and overall well-being. Imagine for a moment navigating a school environment where your very identity is questioned or invalidated. The emotional and psychological toll can be immense, impacting not just academic performance but also mental health. These students need support, understanding, and policies that protect their right to a safe and inclusive education. It's not just about bathrooms or pronouns, it's about recognizing their humanity and dignity. As we move forward, it's crucial to listen to the voices of transgender students and advocate for their rights. After all, every student deserves to feel safe, accepted, and valued in their school community. The Only Two Sexes policy poses a significant threat to the employment opportunities for transgender individuals. By enforcing a binary understanding of sex, many workplaces may feel justified in discriminating against transgender employees. This could lead to higher rates of unemployment and underemployment within the transgender community. The policy undermines years of progress made towards creating inclusive and diverse work environments. The reactions to the only two sexes policy have been mixed, to say the least. Advocates for transgender rights have expressed outrage, calling the policy a blatant act of discrimination. They argue that it erases the identities of countless individuals and legitimizes prejudice. On the other hand, supporters of the policy believe it brings clarity and consistency to legal definitions of sex. This divide highlights the ongoing struggle for recognition and equality faced by the transgender community. The long-term consequences of such discrimination are profound. Transgender individuals may face increased mental health challenges, such as anxiety and depression, due to persistent societal rejection. Economic hardships could become more prevalent, as barriers to stable employment and housing grow. Moreover, the ripple effects of this policy could extend to younger generations, who might experience heightened bullying and exclusion in schools. The societal cost of this discrimination is immense and far-reaching. Legal challenges to the only two sexes policy are already underway. Advocacy groups are mobilizing to contest the policy in courts, arguing that it violates constitutional rights and anti-discrimination laws. The outcomes of these legal battles will be crucial in determining the future of transgender rights in our society. While the road ahead is uncertain, the resilience and determination of the transgender community and its allies continue to drive the fight for equality and justice. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe for more updates on this important issue.